Want to welcome both of you guys to the show.
Thank you.
You know, I got Ken and Jessica of County Smoak.
Mm-hmm.
How many people trip up and say Country Smoak?
Oh, so many.
All the time.
I love when
I
people.
had to argue with people over it being County Smoak.
The best is when people are soliciting donations and they're like, "We'd love to get something from Country Smoak." It's like, sorry.
Sorry.
That's how I knew growing up. If someone called my house and they asked for Horace, I knew that they had no idea who my father was. It was Ed.
Oh, there you go. Makes sense.
So it was like, that's the best caller ID possible, you know, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Just listen to see what somebody was saying with that.
Yeah.
So you guys have been open now here since when?
May 12th.
May 12th, 2020. So we had a little bit of stuff going on at that time.
Yep.
Still do.
Still a little bit different here as we're talking today.
Yep.
You know, tell me about some of those challenges of first getting open, you know, May of this year as you guys were plugging in here in the community.
You start?
Well, we're kind of like a lot of people where we had this plan. We were gonna. We've been looking for spaces for like a year and a half, a year maybe.
Year and a half, 2 years.
And some things professionally had happened for Ken.
I've gotten fired twice from the same place. So
Within the course of a year.
yeah. So,
And so that was back in, I guess, last October. And so,
gosh, it's a year ago like this week.
yeah.
Huh.
And so he had gone up to the homestead to do some contract work up there for a while. And as he was doing that, we're like, okay, well, what are the next steps? How are we going to move forward? Because obviously, working for someone else in Lynchburg is not working out for us. So how do we get the ball rolling with County Smoak? Because we've been doing pop-ups last year and some fundraisers and stuff like that. And our I think I like I said before, we had looked at the garage building over there over a year ago, and had said it would be great if the Uncle Joe's Donuts building had been available, because it's, you know, right on Timberlake and it's small and manageable, whatever. But you know, they had just had an ownership change, and so that wasn't an option. But then in November we were driving by and it was available.
Yeah.
And so our realtor got in touch with their realtor, and we came in, and our realtor was just like ready to walk right back out because it was such a train wreck inside.
Dee was like, I don't know about this
I don't
one,
think it's
guys.
gonna work, guys. It's not gonna work for you. And we're like, no, like, rent's inexpensive. We can put money into the building. We'll make it work. This and that. And this is while Ken was still doing contract work at the homestead. And so we signed our lease in February, thinking that we were gonna have income, you know, coming through until we were able to get the build out done and everything else. And February rolled around, and I had said to Ken, you know, you need to find out what's going on up there and what the situation is. And they told him, oh no, we're gonna hold on to you at least through the summer. And like 2 weeks later, not even.
Well, it was, yeah, in February we had that conversation, but then stuff started escalating with the COVID stuff, and she's like, you're gonna get terminated. She's like, there's no way. And then I was like, all right, well, they said, you know, through the summer. And then it's like my birthday week, March 11th, I came home for my birthday, and then got up there the 13th. They were like, okay, so they went from 900 employees to 25 in a week and a half.
Yeah.
So it was just like everything ended, just like everyone in the hospitality industry's life did, you know?
So it was the middle of March, and we're like, okay, so now there's no income, and we've got this lease, and so we have to make this work. And we didn't know how quickly things were going to shut down. You know, it started to get to where it seemed like, you know, state borders were going to close, and you weren't going to be able to cross boundaries and stuff. And the black trailer was in St. Louis. And so we're like, we need to go get it, because we don't have a way to even open without getting that trailer. Like, we don't have the building done, but if we go and get the trailer, we could at least operate like a food truck. And so we loaded the kids up and did like a 48-hour round trip to St. Louis to pick up the trailer and brought it back. And then it was still, because of all the shutdowns, like with the government offices and this and that, it wasn't until April, right, that we could even get Kyle out here to do the first inspection.
Yeah, it was like the mid to end of April. And then he was like, I'll update you guys every week with what the governor says, what I'm allowed to do. Like, he wasn't even supposed to even be allowed to come do inspections or any of that, but he's like,
Wow.
I'll come out and, like, as long as we're in mask and everything, I'll look over your plan with you and see what you guys have. And so he did, and then he's like, okay, May 8th. He's like, that's the first day that they're allowed inspections. I'll do one that morning for you. And we're like, okay, great.
His day off.
Yeah, it was his day off. But he said that, and, 3 days before he was come, the compressor in the trailer went out on the refrigerator in there. The water heater had gone out since we'd gotten it from St. Louis, because we were like, all right, well, let's start testing out how hot the water is for the Board of Health, inspection, and let's get everything, make sure it's all right. We plugged the fridge in, and we hadn't been hardwired in yet. So with the all that stuff, it just hadn't happened yet. So.
And even before that, I mean, when we got the trailer, because it has a 3-compartment sink and the hand sink and the refrigeration and everything else, we figured we'd be able to just operate out of the trailer, no problem. And then when Kyle came out, he was like, you need a commissary kitchen. We're like, what?
Yeah.
And we knew it was going to take us $15,000 to get this kitchen built out. So we're like, oh, we're going to need to figure that out. And so
He said hi.
we're scrambling, trying to reach out to people, in the area, but everybody was closed. Like all the restaurants had shut down. So it's like, who are you going to use for a commissary? And then there's a caterer in Windhurst, and she was open doing box lunches and stuff like that. And she was in a space where we had known the guy that was in the space before that. And so I reached out to her, and she was like, okay, you can use my kitchen as a commissary. And so we ran like that for about 3 months until we got this one done. And it was just, we couldn't finish it until we had money coming in. I mean, we tell everybody, like, when we opened the doors, there was $3,000 left, and that was it. So it was like literally
in all accounts.
Like all accounts. So either you get open and you make money, or
Yeah.
You're not going to pay mortgage or do anything else for the family.
It's amazing, when I've had these conversations with other people, it's a lot of times it's that all the ships are burnt in the harbor moment. There's no turning back.
Yep.
The money's gone, sink or swim.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And then that's when everything works, because there's no other option.
There's no option. It's not an option.
It's hey, it's here. We got what we got. We're going to sell what we can, and we're going to put it right back in to take a dollar bill and turn it into 2, and then take those 2 and turn it into 4, and then just keep going. So you guys have been doing tremendously well, as far as I can see from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
With multiple times being sold out with that. But I got to look back to the beginning. What got you guys in barbecue?
I went to Oklahoma. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, but I went to Oklahoma State, and that's where I started eating barbecue. And then when I moved to culinary school in Hyde Park, New York, there wasn't really any barbecue up there. And then when I moved to West Virginia to do my internship, I was like, oh, surely there'll be a barbecue spot around, and there wasn't any. So I bought, at the time, expensive to me, but now I know it's cheaply made, an old offset Brinkman smoker from Walmart, and just started tinkering, and I would bring it to this guy, Ethan Heilman, who ended up being my mentor, and on my days off, he would tell me what I did wrong and what wasn't good about my barbecue, and I would constantly improve. And then they had classes that Stephen Reichland taught up at the Greenbrier, and I'd go and cook and help clean and do all that and listen to the thing, and then go to work later that day. So I wouldn't be scheduled to be up there, but you could go up there and help if you were an apprentice. So I did that. And then when I started doing barbecue competitions, and then I had people a lot of the waiters and servers of the Greenbrier had farms, and it's like they did the Greenbrier work to get their health insurance and some money, but they had pigs and cows and everything else, and they asked if I could, could you barbecue this for me or my family? So then I had someone build me a smoker out of a dairy tank, and just kept going, started doing competitions. My first competition was actually here in Lynchburg in, I think, 2002, 2003. So it was down on the river. It was before any of that was redone. So it was just there. I mean, and so it's funny that we ended up back in Lynchburg, almost 20 years later, and just a little crazy. But got into barbecue, started doing it full time at the Greenbrier when Ethan moved up to management. And then I met Chris Lilly, and he hired me down to Big Bob Gibson's in Decatur, Alabama, and was there for 7 years. And she was living in Kansas City, and we had met through mutual friends of the Greenbrier and didn't like each other. And then So
He's growing on me slowly.
Learn to tolerate one another.
slowly I'm growing on her. So there you go. We started dating like what, March of 11?
Yeah.
March of 11. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Wow. So
Quick version.
back to Lynchburg 20 years later, from a barbecue competition to being the leading barbecue authority in Lynchburg.
I don't know that I'm the leading barbecue authority. I'm sure my wife is. So there you go.
I am not.
So you guys have grown quite a bit even just since May. What are you looking at as far as opportunities you guys see in the community to expand? I mean, I'm not saying to give away all your secrets, but I'm saying, what do you see as opportunities here in the community to be able to grow?
I think, getting a bigger restaurant is clearly is phase 3 for us, is figuring out, if it's buying the property we're sitting on now or finding a restaurant that's already built out. I mean, with all the stuff that's going on right now, we just have to be ready for whatever we can do. But, certain things like the walk-in that's over there was never in the first plans. We thought we could do it with reaching refrigerators, and then quickly knew that, we're going through a ton of meat and we're just going through so much volume that, our ice bill to keep everything iced in coolers was almost $700 a month.
Wow.
And so now it's like, okay, well, in the middle of COVID, we had the cash on hand, but it was like, let's see if we can get this financed, just so that, but we didn't know that anybody would even finance to a brand new business, let alone a restaurant in the middle of COVID. And we were able to do it, and it knocked the ice bill down completely by almost $600 and everything else. So it's it was one of those things where we've slowly we started 3 picnic tables we started with. We have 9. We have 1 behind the trailers in case somebody really doesn't want to sit near anybody else.
So all we had
That's
was
the chef's table.
chefs. Yeah. We only had we had 1 refrigerator inside, right? We had the one that we had already had in our garage that we brought over. So we had one commercial refrigerator initially.
And then 1 in the trailer.
And then 1 in the trailer. Yeah. And we had to buy every piece of equipment and every sink and fixture and everything.
Every
inside.
contractor's bill,
Yeah.
every time we ripped up something new in the floor, poor Buck at the floor show at Carpet One up on Timberlake, he was like, I got bad news, boss. I'm like, what?
Every time he came and told us to bulldoze the building. He goes, here's my recommendation. Let's get a bulldozer.
He said, you guys are already doing more business than you need, so you're already outgrowing the building. Let's just knock the whole thing over. It's garbage. And it's like, okay, Buck, but that's not in the financial plan right now.
Yeah.
So eventually we may bulldoze it over, Buck, but can we get a couple secure Band-Aids on this so we can get a floor in here? But it was just every time we ripped something up, it was, that money pit type
Hidden
thing.
surprise underneath.
Yeah.
So you guys plugged back into the community with opening up. What have been some of the relationships that have been most important to you guys with getting up and running as quickly as you have?
Well, our neighbors, Tim and Becky, have been awesome. They live right there. So to have great neighbors that don't mind the smoke smell, don't, constantly, we're up at 6 o'clock in the morning banging around out here. So, they're wonderful. So that's a great relationship that we'd never known them beforehand, but they've really, they're both, Becky's in charge of the choir, Thomas Road Baptist, or helps with the choir. So there's been a lot of people who come on oh, Tim and Becky sent us. And so that's been great.
Tim's over at Liberty and Residential Life. So those are, we always talk about how it's funny. We traveled in so many different circles since we got here in 2016, because I worked at 3 different schools and our kids have attended 2 different schools, and Ken worked for a restaurant group that had so many different units, and he was going from restaurant to restaurant, working with lots of different chefs and meeting all the different purveyors.
Servers and bartenders. You just get to know everyone in town.
And Lynchburg is like a small town anyway, even though it's got a fair amount of people. Everybody knows everybody. So we were just able to sort of, just travel in so many different circles that once we finally opened, there was already a core group of people that had been following us just down at the Stadium Inn. So I guess Daryl Burgess is another relationship.
Daryl's huge relationship here.
He owns Stadium Inn and all his quickie marts, and he let us set up outside of the Stadium Inn on Mondays, right? We did Mondays?
Yeah, we would do one Monday a month, and the first time he was like, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. And by the halfway through the first of it, they had one of the best Mondays they've ever had, and it was only 2 or 3 o'clock. When he's like, whenever you want to set up again, guys, go ahead. And on his relationship, he didn't charge us to set up, and he said you can't sell drinks, you can't sell wings, because I serve those inside. And at the time, we couldn't sell pork because they had pulled barbecue sandwiches inside. So we said, sure, no problem. So like by the third or fourth pop-up, we started to say, nobody even knows it's for our pork, and it's one of the stronger things we do. But it was like one of those weird ones where because of our deal with Daryl, we never served it. And then he came up at one point, he's like, you know what, people are asking for wings and they want pork. He's like, just go ahead, whatever you guys are doing, just don't sell any drinks, please. But people would go in and order fries from them and wings. So it was just, and it's kind of how our community, with how we've done with the Mass ladies, our friends who have a craft business, the cookie lady, he never charged us. And it was like, you know what, if you guys can make yourself a little something extra here, I won't charge you. And so like that's how our little market out here started.
Wafflemania was out here.
Wafflemania, till they tied in up the road. So it was like, they're like, what do you want us to pay you? I was like, you know what? We both agreed. Daryl gave us a shot. So that's kind of how we do it. We've had a lady set up to sell her nail stuff here. And it's really been one of those things where it's like, you know what? Somebody gave us that shot. So why not help somebody else? Or another food truck just come set up, and it's built a better community amongst, I think, the food and the food truck business people, but also like things like it's led to like outside the cone. We smoked some pecans for a smoked pecan Rocky Road, and Jess, when she grew up in Kansas City, or not grew up, but lived in Kansas City, a lot of people collaborated on stuff. Like people would use this brewery's beer to make this, and use this in their sweets, and it was like one of those things where we reached out and like, hey man, you want us to smoke something for you? And and Tyler and Kim were like, oh, well, what do you want to charge us to smoke the pecan? I'm like, nothing. Just spell my name right on the spell smoke right the way we want it to, and we don't care. It's like, but he brought the pecans to us. I'm like, it's your pecans. I'm just putting some smoke to them. Yeah. When we're done cooking for the end of the day, it's not going to affect us. It's like, I just want you to do well. I want our customers to go to you and yours to come to us. And it's what Jess has always believed since she lived in Kansas City, like collaborating, working with everybody. And that's where we kind of felt like we needed to go with just the restaurant community, I guess.
Yeah, and Michelle from Purple Door was huge in helping us to get open by allowing us the commissary space. And so she's another one where, she's like, I don't need to sell my pulled pork that I'm making out of the oven, or my brisket or whatever. Or like the other day, she had a bride that didn't tell her that she was gluten-free, and so she had done all this brisket for a wedding, and then it turned out that she needed gluten-free brisket. Her rub had gluten in it, or her sauce had gluten in it, and ours doesn't. So she came over and bought from us, or she's done that with pork and stuff in the past. And we had a wedding where somebody wanted these big charcuterie boards, and she does beautiful, beautiful grazing tables. Yeah. We're like, you know what? Michelle will do that portion of the wedding, and we'll do the other portion of the wedding, and everybody makes some money, and everybody sticks with their core competencies, and it works out really well.
For us to bring in a bunch of cheeses and sausages and things that we don't use on the daily, it's a dumb business move on our part, where she always has it. So it's one of those things, like sometimes when you do caterings and people want special stuff, you got to be like, okay, is there a way for me to use this product up later, or can I get just enough of what I need to get this done? So. Yeah,
and it's like, you can, I don't know, I think some people look at like everybody is competition, and you want to, and it's just not the case. You're in a city where the culinary scene is just starting to gain traction and just starting to develop, and there's going to be a lot of consumer education that needs to happen, and just the more options that you can give people, and the more you can make people invested in local purveyors and local products, it's just going to feed everybody's success. But especially right now where hospitality industry is struggling so much, to try and help people understand that right now is really hard, because everybody's just trying to get by.
Well, speaking of people trying to get by, one of the things that really stuck out to me is you guys starting with Thankful Thursday and trying to help people out that just kind of needed a little hand up with that. Tell me a little bit how that started and how it's grown for you guys since.
Well, even before we opened, with COVID going on, and almost like every peer that we've ever had in the business was out of work. Every bartender, manager, chef, server. So
You.
I mean, myself.
Everybody was unemployed.
Everyone was unemployed, so we had said, if we get open, we should almost just put it out there, like anyone in the service industry, if you need food right now, just come on by and we'll feed you. Tell us how many kids you got and we'll feed you. So the smoked turkey, which now we sell out of all the time, it's not your ribs, it's not pulled pork, it's not brisket. So it's not a star of a show right now. When we first opened, it is now. People are like, whoa, this turkey's amazing. But you could see, like, people were disappointed when that's all we had left the first couple of days. So we had a couple turkey breasts, and then Jess came in one morning and said,
well, it was Thursday morning, and I was like, well, Thursday, or I said, turkey, Thanksgiving, thankful. I was like, let's do Thankful Thursday. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, let's just, we have all this turkey left over, so we'll just do Thankful Thursday. So if anybody needs anything to eat, we got turkey, we'll do turkey family packs, we'll do turkey sandwiches, and that's what we'll do. And then people were really receptive. People really, even people that didn't need it were very appreciative of the fact that it was even out there in the community, or people really just like the fact that we were giving back, and it's just something that was important to us anyway. So we're like, all right, well, let's just make it a thing that if you're hungry, come eat, right? But why change the name?
Yeah. Well, because people started donating like $200-$300 to us.
Yeah.
I mean, friends of ours from across the country, like, hey, we can't get there because of COVID, but we really want to support you guys. How do I do a donation? You're like, okay, well, we'll figure that out, how to Venmo us something or whatever. And so when that happened, we were just like, we'll just make it all the time. And so, like, every day, if you now...
It's also because we don't sell old product.
Right.
There are a lot of barbecue places and a lot of restaurants in general, as that will cool stuff down and retherm it the next day, and barbecue just isn't the same when you do that. So, while, before we were selling out all the time, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this product, if we're not going to sell it the next day? And so, some of it would go to Thankful Thursday, a lot of it would go to the firehouses, to the police department.
One of our dishwashers runs a recovery house, so he had 7 to 11 people living there at different times, so food would go home to them. He would bring to other houses for Roads to Recovery, just drop them food off. So it was just a way for us to give back to the community, but also keep our integrity of our product and everything else that we wanted to keep. And then, now she started making chicken and dumplings because we one day had like 8 or 9 chickens left. And it's like, okay, we just, recovery house couldn't take any more. They were like, we got enough right now, chef. And, the fire departments, we kind of had to hit everybody. So now she's like, oh, let's make chicken and dumplings. It's like, okay. And now we have the exact opposite problem. Now we're smoking chickens and they're selling out, and now it's like we got to smoke chickens to make chicken and dumplings, and so now it's like this vicious, because now we don't have leftovers. So it's like a vicious cycle that we've created for ourselves here.
Yeah, but it's really our staff gets really, really excited. Like when somebody calls for Thankful Thursday, or when somebody comes to the window for Thankful Thursday, they all get like super excited that somebody's taking advantage of it. And,
we had a family came the other day. I guess the husband left after 21 years or something. She emailed us that night. And, the little girl wanted mac and cheese. We were out. They wanted ribs. We happened to be like, all we had left was chicken. We were at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And she had said it, and we gave it to them. We gave them baked beans and buns and everything else. And we may have given them 2 chickens. I don't remember. But she emailed us that night saying, this really meant a lot to our family. It was like a huge feast. Thank you very much, And so, like, I copied and pasted it and sent it to the group chat or text or whatever it's called. And it's like I wanted them to see it too, our staff, because we get to do it all the time, and we hear about it probably more than they do.
Yeah.
Like they probably interact with the individuals themselves more than we do, because either one of us is packing or pulling meats off. So I don't always get to meet everyone that got it. But, we've seen a few of them now, and, some have been regulars that have come all the time and then, did contract work and didn't get paid like they were supposed to, like, right on time. And, like, hey, you mind if I get a sandwich? Sure, get a sandwich. Anything that helps. We don't ask questions, so that's what's cool about it.
So what's the best way for people to stay up on everything that you guys are doing?
I guess social media would be the best thing, obviously.
Ken, I feel like I see your face almost every day to welcome me to the day of what's going on.
Well, I mean, she doesn't always like to do them either, so that's, or we'll be busy and she'll be in the side of the show. She'll like, go do a Facebook Live. I'm like, but I'm busy too, and she's like, no, you just go do it. I don't want to do it.
You love doing it.
I don't love doing it.
You do.
Yeah, so I'm the social butterfly of the two of us. So I guess I do it more often than not.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, Instagram, Facebook. We don't use Twitter as much. I mean,
I don't have Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter's like, I use it for news and stuff like that, but every now and then we'll post on there, but we don't really use the Twitter for the County Smoak.
I think we should add TikTok videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get Ken to do some dances.
Yeah.
With, that should.
The chicken dance.
Just what I need. TikTok. Our 17-year-old doesn't even want to download TikTok on her phone. So it's like, it's like she's the one that should be doing the TikToks. But it's us that get stuck with the social. But our oldest, who helps, Allie, who helps with all the, the front register packing, all that, she does help a lot with the Instagram account, because I guess we weren't using the stories as much as we should have been, and some of like the graphics
we weren't doing
and
it
stuff.
Right, she said.
Yeah, we were
doing the Instagram right.
Yeah, so we were doing it more like Facebook, but it's one of those, you don't know how it's weird to see like Facebook is up here with followers and Instagram's still down here. So we've been trying to boost our Instagram following a little bit more, but it's also hard when you're doing these Facebook Live videos all the time. It's not always pictures of food then. So just different things that we're trying to do whatever we can, but we're also working a lot.
Yeah.
So like some days it's like, oh, we haven't done a Facebook Live and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon already, and you're like, we've been rolling. I don't know, we're gonna have any food left to do a Facebook Live.
But we do try. I mean, we have the online ordering, so people can go and order ahead of time. You can order in the morning for later that day. You can order early in the week for later in the week. And if you go on there, it'll show you what we're out of. But not everybody goes to the website. So we initially were doing a lot of them in the afternoon anyway, to just sort of update people, like, hey, we're out of brisket, or hey, we're out of ribs.
Mac and cheese is sold out, or
to try to give people an idea of where we're at, just because we're selling out now too, but just so people know they don't come all the way down here just to be sad.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to congratulate you guys on achieving dreams here in Lynchburg with getting this open and growing tremendously with that.
Thank you.
Thank you from the community, and thank you to everybody's stomachs, I'm sure, as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're glad to be here with Lynchburg, and we're happy that everyone's taken to us as well as they have. I mean, it's been interesting to see. I mean, the online ordering, the takeout, COVID's been messed up a lot of things in this industry, but because we were still building, we were able to adapt very quickly, and it's been our saving grace probably for us, is that the online ordering, the to-go, takeout outside, and it's just been perfect for us to actually open in this, even with the meat shortages and everything else we've had to deal with.
Fantastic. Well, Jessica, Ken, thanks so much for your time.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.